In the ever-shifting world of fame, some names shine brightly and then fade too soon, leaving behind unanswered questions and hearts filled with grief. Today we gather to remember 5 remarkable figures whose journeys have touched countless lives. Actress Kelly Mack, rock icon Terry Reid, timeless singer Jane Morgan Beloved, comedian Reggie Carroll, and television star Danielle Spencer. Each left this world in ways that stirred both sorrow and reflection, and their final chapters remind us how fragile even the brightest lights can be. What truly happened in their last days, and what legacies continue to echo long after their passing. Join us as we look back on their stories, moments of triumph, struggles in the shadows, and the enduring impact that ensures they will never be forgotten. Kelly Mack was more than just a promising actress. She was a rising star whose performances carried a blend of sincerity and vulnerability that set her apart in the industry. Born in Ohio, she pursued acting with relentless dedication, eventually making her way into television and independent films. Her breakthrough came when she appeared in the Walking Dead series, a role that quickly introduced her to a global audience and demonstrated her ability to captivate viewers even in limited screen time. What made Kelly stand out was not simply her talent, but the quiet determination she carried in her work. She balanced a sense of strength with emotional depth, bringing authenticity to every character she portrayed. Colleagues often described her as warm, humble, and deeply committed to her craft, someone who embraced each opportunity as a chance to grow. Though her career was still in its early chapters, it was clear she possessed both the skill and the drive to build a lasting place in Hollywood. Her sudden passing shocked fans and colleagues alike, cutting short a journey that seemed destined for far greater recognition. For many, Kelly's story is not only about what she achieved, but also about the promise of what could have been. As Kelly Mack's career began to gain momentum, she faced the same pressures that shadow many rising talents in Hollywood. Behind the polished performances and professional poise lay a young woman navigating the demands of an unforgiving industry. While her role in The Walking Dead brought recognition, it also thrust her into a spotlight that carried heavy expectations. Those close to her often remarked that Kelly worked tirelessly sometimes, to the point of exhaustion, determined to prove herself worthy of the opportunities she had been given. In her final years, Kelly appeared in a variety of independent film projects and television guest roles, steadily building a resume that reflected her versatility. Yet, she was not immune to the strains of an industry that often blurs the lines between personal identity and public persona. Social media became both a blessing and a burden, offering her a platform to connect with fans, but also exposing her to the constant scrutiny and pressure that come with fame. Friends recalled moments of vulnerability when Kelly expressed the weight of trying to maintain balance, balancing ambition with self-care, and private struggles with the demands of a growing audience. It was during these years that she quietly faced challenges that were rarely visible to the public eye. Some accounts spoke of her battling fatigue stress and the emotional toll of carrying a career on the verge of greater success, yet never quite secure enough to allow her peace of mind. Though she never stopped pushing forward, there was a sense of fragility surrounding her journey, as if the momentum she had worked so hard to build was in constant tension with the personal costs it demanded. These final years painted a portrait of a young woman, both gifted and vulnerable, whose path seemed to reflect the delicate balance between promise and pressure in the entertainment world. The sudden passing of Kelly Mack was a shock that reverberated through the entertainment community and among her growing fan base. Reports confirmed that she died unexpectedly in August 2025, though details surrounding the exact circumstances were limited at first. Authorities later clarified that her death was not the result of foul play, but the abruptness of the news left many struggling to comprehend how a young actress with so much promise could be gone so soon. Those closest to her described her final days as quiet and unassuming. She had recently been involved in smaller film projects and was considering new opportunities that might expand her reach as both an actress and a storyteller. There were no signs that such a devastating announcement was imminent, which only deepened the sorrow and disbelief. When the news broke, tributes poured in across social media from fans and colleagues alike. Former cast members of The Walking Dead shared heartfelt words remembering her as a kind soul with an infectious spirit who brought authenticity to every scene. For many, her death underscored the fragility of life in an industry that often masks struggle behind the sheen of success. But even as condolences flowed, one question remained. Had the full truth of her final moments truly been revealed, or would certain pieces of her story remain forever in the shadows? Though Kelly Mac's career was tragically cut short, her impact remains deeply felt among those who knew her and those who admired her from afar. Her performance in The Walking Dead, though brief, cemented her as a memorable presence in one of television's most iconic series, a role that fans still revisit and celebrate. Beyond that, her work in independent films reflected a commitment to storytelling that prioritized depth and honesty, qualities that resonated with audiences seeking authenticity. Her colleagues described her as not only talented but profoundly generous, someone who offered encouragement on set and carried a quiet strength that uplifted others. In the wake of her passing, tributes from fans flooded online platforms, many sharing how her characters had touched them, and how her authenticity served as a source of inspiration. The legacy she leaves behind is not measured solely by the number of roles she played, but by the sincerity with which she approached each one. She reminded audiences that even in small roles, a performer can leave an indelible mark. While her absence is a painful reminder of what might have been, her spirit endures in the memories of those who cherished her work. Kelly Mac's story stands as both a testament to the power of authenticity and a poignant reminder of life's fleeting nature. Terry Reid, affectionately known as Super Lungs for his astonishing vocal power, was a British rock singer whose career spanned more than 5 decades. Born in Huntingdon, England in 1949, Reid rose to prominence during the late 1960s when rock music was undergoing a cultural revolution. His voice, raw, soulful, and infused with a unique blend of blues and rock, immediately set him apart, earning him the admiration of peers and legends alike. Though never achieving the commercial superstardom that some predicted, Reid's reputation as a musician's musician became undeniable. He famously turned down an invitation to join Led Zeppelin, recommending Robert Plant, instead a decision that became a defining anecdote in rock history. Throughout his career, he toured with icons such as the Rolling Stones' Cream and Jethro Tull, and his solo work, particularly albums like River, gained a loyal following among dedicated rock enthusiasts. What made Terry Reid stand out was his authenticity. He was not just chasing fame, he lived for the music itself, often preferring intimate performances that showcased his voice and guitar, playing rather than large-scale productions. To those who heard him live, his performances were unforgettable experiences, filled with emotion and unfiltered energy. Even as trends shifted and decades passed, Reid maintained his place as one of rock's most respected and beloved cult figures, a man whose influence reached far beyond his commercial recognition. In the twilight of his career, Terry Reid continued to embody the spirit of a true musician, performing not for accolades but for the joy of sharing music. Though he never reached the chart-topping fame, some had once predicted his later years revealed a man content with his identity as a cult figure in rock. Living quietly between England and the United States, Reid often performed in smaller venues, where his unmistakable voice still resonated with a depth that captivated audiences. In interviews during these final years, he often reflected on the choices that shaped his career. Turning down the offer to front Led Zeppelin had become a story etched into rock history, and Reid would recount it with a sense of peace rather than regret. He recognized that while others had reached stardom, his path had been uniquely his own, allowing him to maintain artistic freedom and authenticity. Friends and fellow musicians described him as warm, approachable, and endlessly passionate about music. Despite health challenges that became more visible as he aged, Reed never lost the spark that drove him to pick up a guitar and sing. Those who saw him perform in his later years often noted that though the energy of youth had softened the soul of his voice, carried even more emotional weight, enriched by a lifetime of triumphs and struggles. His last tours were marked by a kind of intimacy that reminded fans why they had loved him from the start. Every performance felt like a farewell gift, filled with gratitude and sincerity. These years painted a picture of a man who, despite the passage of time and the obstacles of the industry, never wavered in his devotion to music. Terry Reid passed away in August 2025 at the age of 76, leaving behind a wave of sorrow among musicians and fans who had cherished his voice for decades. Reports confirmed that he died peacefully in the United States with family and close friends nearby. His death was not accompanied by sensational circumstances, but rather marked by the quiet dignity of a life devoted entirely to music. News of his passing spread quickly across music circles, igniting heartfelt tributes from fellow artists who recognized him as one of rock's most underrated yet influential figures. Social media became a gathering place for fans who shared memories of intimate concerts, rare recordings, and the awe they felt the first time they heard his soaring vocals. Colleagues spoke of his generosity and humility, noting that Reed never allowed the weight of missed commercial opportunities to dim his spirit. Instead, he remained steadfastly focused on the joy of performing, whether before thousands or in the corner of a small club. Though the official statements surrounding his death painted a picture of serenity, one question lingered for many. Had the world truly grasped the depth of his influence, or would his brilliance remain partially hidden, appreciated only by those fortunate enough to have witnessed it firsthand? Terry Reid's legacy lies not in record sales or chart positions, but in the deep respect he earned from some of the greatest names in rock music. He was the singer other singers admired, the guitarist musicians sought out, and the storyteller who poured his soul into every performance. His decision to step aside and recommend Robert Plant for Led Zeppelin while altering the course of rock history also spoke to his humility and generosity. It became a defining moment that revealed the kind of man he was: selfless, authentic, and driven more by passion than ego. In the days following his passing, tributes came from across the music world. Artists remembered him not only for his incredible voice, but also for his kindness and unwavering devotion to his craft. Fans shared recordings of his legendary live shows, recounting how his voice seemed to carry both the weight of struggle and the joy of release. Reed's influence can be heard in countless musicians who drew inspiration from his fearless blending of blues, rock, and soul. Though he never occupied the spotlight of superstardom, his contributions enriched the fabric of modern rock in ways that cannot be measured by fame alone. His absence leaves a quiet but profound void, yet his songs remain a living testament to his artistry. Jane Morgan was a voice that carried elegance, grace, and timeless charm, embodying an era when popular music bridged the worlds of classical training and mainstream appeal. Born in Newton, Massachusetts in 1924, she pursued her musical education at Juilliard, where her formal training prepared her for a career of rare versatility. While she initially aspired to opera, it was popular music that brought her into the spotlight, particularly in Europe, where she first achieved acclaim before returning to the United States to make her mark. Her career flourished during the 1950s and 1960s, an age when her rich soprano and sophisticated stage presence set her apart. Songs like Fascination and The Day the Rains became international hits, earning her both commercial success and critical admiration. Morgan's ability to sing in multiple languages made her a beloved figure, not only in America, but across Europe, where her recordings resonated deeply. Beyond her musical achievements, Jane Morgan's poise and elegance made her a fixture on television variety shows and in concert halls, where she was often introduced as a symbol of refined artistry. To many, She represented a golden era of music when class and emotion worked hand in hand to captivate audiences. Her artistry created a bond that transcended generations, ensuring her place among the great vocalists of her time. In her later years, Jane Morgan gradually stepped back from the public stage, choosing instead a life of quiet dignity and reflection. Having already achieved international acclaim, she no longer sought the spotlight, preferring to spend her days surrounded by family and close friends. By the time she reached her 80s and 90s, her public appearances had become rare, though when she did surface, her elegance and grace still shone through. Morgan's later life was shaped as much by her personal devotion as by her professional legacy. She was married to entertainment executive Jerry Weintraub for decades, and their enduring partnership became a cornerstone of her stability. Weintraub's passing in 2015 was a profound loss, and though Jane carried on with resilience, those close to her noted that she often reflected on their shared journey with a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. Despite the passage of time, Jane never lost her love for music. Friends and family recall how she would often sing privately, her voice still carrying the clarity and warmth that had once filled grand concert halls. Her story in those final years was not one of public triumphs, but of personal reflection, a graceful transition into the twilight of life. Even as health challenges arose with age, she remained a figure of composure. She valued her privacy, avoiding spectacle, yet the mere mention of her name was enough to stir nostalgic admiration from fans who remembered her golden era. These years were marked by serenity and dignity, a fitting chapter for a woman who had long been celebrated for both her artistry and her class. Jane Morgan passed away in early August 2025 at the age of 101, closing the final chapter of a remarkable life that had spanned more than a century. She died peacefully at her home in Florida, surrounded by family, a setting that reflected the dignity and serenity with which she had carried herself throughout her career and later years. There were no dramatic revelations, only the solemn recognition that a legendary voice had finally fallen silent. News of her passing was met with a wave of tributes from across the entertainment world. Fellow artists, many of whom had grown up inspired by her recordings, expressed admiration for her elegance and artistry. Fans shared their memories of hearing Fascination for the first time, recalling how her songs had become the soundtrack to weddings, family gatherings, and cherished moments across generations. What struck many observers was the quiet grace of her departure. She had lived to see her work celebrated over decades, and her passing felt less like the abrupt end of a career than the natural conclusion of a life well lived. Yet, even in that peaceful ending, a lingering question remained. Had the world truly appreciated the depth of her artistry while she was alive, or would her brilliance be fully recognized only in hindsight? Jane Morgan's legacy is one of timeless elegance, bridging the gap between classical artistry and popular music. Her recordings from the 1950s and 1960s remain staples of an era defined by sophistication and grace, with songs like Fascination and continuing to resonate at weddings and celebrations decades after their release. She was not just a singer. She was an interpreter of emotion, capable of transforming simple melodies into moments of profound beauty. Colleagues and admirers remembered her as a consummate professional whose presence on stage exuded both confidence and warmth. She carried herself with the dignity of a classically trained vocalist, yet her artistry remained approachable and heartfelt. For many, her career demonstrated that success was not merely about fame, but about leaving behind music that could endure the passing of time. Following her death, tributes highlighted her ability to transcend cultural and linguistic barriers. Singing fluently in multiple languages, she reached audiences across Europe and beyond, uniting people through her voice. Fans who had grown old alongside her music expressed gratitude for the way her songs had soundtracked their lives. Though her voice has now been silenced, Jane Morgan's artistry endures, reminding future generations that true elegance in music never fades. Her life and career stand as a testament to the enduring power of grace, class, and song. Reggie Carroll was a comedian whose life and career were defined by laughter timing and the ability to connect with audiences through humor that was both sharp and relatable. Born and raised in the United States, Carroll discovered early on that making people laugh was more than just a talent, it was his calling. By the time he reached adulthood, he had become a regular fixture in local clubs where his energetic performances and quick wit made him a crowd favorite. His career flourished during the late 1990s and early 2000s when he began touring nationally and appearing in televised comedy specials. Audiences loved his unfiltered take on everyday struggles, blending storytelling with punchlines that resonated with working-class families and young audiences alike. Carroll was not a celebrity in the traditional sense. He never sought to dominate Hollywood or become a household name. But within the world of stand-up comedy, he was respected for his craft and admired for his persistence. What set Reggie apart was his authenticity. He drew material from his own experiences, creating routines that felt honest and grounded. Fellow comedians often spoke of his generosity backstage, where he encouraged younger performers and fostered a sense of community in an industry that could be fiercely competitive. Though his career faced ups and downs, Carroll remained a beloved figure among those who valued humor as a way of bringing light to even the darkest situations. In his final years, Reggie Carroll's journey reflected the fragile balance between resilience and hardship that so many comedians quietly endure. Though he never entirely stepped away from performing the rhythm of his career, slowed as the challenges of sustaining momentum in an unforgiving industry began to weigh heavily. He continued to appear in smaller clubs where audiences appreciated his humor and familiarity, but the grander stages that once seemed within reach grew less frequent. Behind the scenes, Carroll wrestled with personal difficulties that added weight to his professional struggles. Friends later shared that he faced financial strain and bouts of discouragement, often wondering if the industry he had given so much to would ever fully recognize his contributions. Yet, despite these challenges, he never lost his commitment to the craft. Even on his hardest nights, he could find solace in the laughter of a room full of strangers, a reminder that comedy had always been his way of pushing through adversity. Social media provided him with a modest but loyal following in these final years, where he occasionally posted reflections and jokes that carried the same honesty as his stage routines. For fans, these glimpses into his world revealed a man who remained authentic, candid, and willing to share both his struggles and his humor. Colleagues often spoke about Carroll's generosity in his later years, mentoring younger comedians, offering advice, and emphasizing the importance of perseverance in a business where setbacks are inevitable. Though his life was becoming more complicated, the community he nurtured and the joy he brought to audiences proved that his work still mattered. The closing years of Reggie Carroll's life painted a picture of a man whose career may have dimmed in scale, but never in spirit. He remained steadfast in his devotion to comedy, even when the spotlight grew faint. The shocking news of Reggie Carroll's death at the age of 52 sent ripples of disbelief through the comedy world. Reports confirmed that he was shot in late August 2025, a sudden and violent end that stood in stark contrast to the joy and laughter he had spent a lifetime creating. The circumstances surrounding his death remain under investigation, but early statements from authorities suggested that it was the result of a targeted attack rather than a random act of violence. For those closest to him, the tragedy was almost impossible to comprehend. Friends recalled seeing him only days earlier, still performing in smaller venues, and sharing his trademark humor with audiences who adored him. There were no outward signs that such an abrupt and devastating event was about to occur. When the news broke, fellow comedians and fans alike flooded social media with tributes expressing sorrow and outrage at the senseless loss. His peers described him as a brother in arms in the comedy circuit, someone whose kindness and loyalty had left a permanent mark on those who worked alongside him. Yet, as the public mourned, questions lingered. What led to the deadly encounter that ended his life so suddenly? And was the full truth of that night's events being revealed? Or would some answers remain hidden forever? Reggie Carroll's legacy is one that cannot be measured in ticket sales or television ratings, but in the lives he touched through laughter. For more than 2 decades, he stood on stages large and small, offering audiences a moment of escape from their burdens. His comedy, rooted in everyday struggles and human imperfections, spoke directly to people who recognized themselves in his stories. To his fans, he was more than a comedian. He was a voice that turned hardship into humor and vulnerability into strength. Following his tragic death, tributes poured in from across the comedy community. Colleagues remembered his generosity backstage and his willingness to help younger performers navigate the often unforgiving landscape of stand-up. Many spoke of the way he made them feel seen, not only as comedians, but as people. Audiences echoed this sentiment, recalling moments when his humor lightened their darkest days. Though his career may never have reached mainstream stardom, Reggie Carroll leaves behind a legacy of authenticity and resilience. His memory now lives in the stories told by those he mentored, the laughter he sparked in countless clubs, and the recordings that preserve his wit. He may be gone, but his spirit endures each time someone remembers the joy he brought into their lives. Danielle Spencer was an actress and television personality whose charm, resilience, and talent made her a beloved figure for audiences spanning multiple generations. Born in Trenton, New Jersey in 1965, she grew up surrounded by creativity and performance, eventually stepping into the world of acting during her teenage years. She became best known for her role on the hit 1970s sitcom, What's Happening?, where she played Dee Thomas, the witty and sharp younger sister, whose quick comebacks often stole the scene. The role brought her early fame, and though she did not pursue acting as aggressively as some of her peers, she became a cultural touchstone for viewers who cherished the show. Fans admired the way she balanced youthful humor with authenticity, capturing the complexities of adolescence on screen. Even after the series ended, her character remained etched in the memory of those who had grown up watching her. Outside of entertainment, Danielle pursued other passions, including a career in veterinary medicine, which surprised many fans and highlighted her multifaceted nature. This decision reflected her determination to live a life defined not only by fame, but also by service, compassion, and personal fulfillment. For many, Danielle Spencer symbolized both the nostalgia of classic television and the courage to redefine one's path beyond the spotlight. She will always be remembered as more than just a child star. She was an actress, a healer, and an enduring presence in popular culture. In the later chapters of her life, Danielle Spencer lived with both the fond memories of her time in the spotlight and the challenges that came with stepping away from it. While many still recognized her as Dee Thomas from What's Happening, she chose to build a life that extended far beyond the fame of her youth. Pursuing her passion for animals, Spencer became a licensed veterinarian, a career that reflected her compassion and dedication to service. Her decision to dedicate herself to veterinary medicine won her admiration from fans who respected her willingness to follow her heart rather than chase the spotlight. However, these years were not without difficulty. Spencer faced significant health challenges, including a long battle with breast cancer. Her openness in speaking about her illness offered encouragement to others fighting similar struggles as she used her platform to advocate for awareness and resilience. Friends and colleagues recalled her determination during treatments, often describing her as a fighter who refused to let illness define her identity. Even amid these struggles, Spencer remained a beloved figure within the entertainment community. She occasionally made appearances at fan conventions and television reunions, where audiences welcomed her with warmth and nostalgia. Each appearance reminded viewers of her enduring impact on popular culture, as well as her courage in facing life's adversities. Her final years reflected a story of strength and perseverance, a woman who transitioned from child stardom to a career of service, who battled illness with dignity and who continued to inspire others with her candor and courage. Though her health declined, she never allowed hardship to eclipse the light of her spirit. Danielle Spencer passed away in late August 2025 at the age of 59 after a long and courageous battle with breast cancer. Surrounded by family and close friends, she spent her final days in the comfort of her home, a place that had become both sanctuary and stage for her resilience. Her death was met with profound sadness, not only from those who knew her personally, but also from the countless fans who had grown up watching her as the quick-witted Dee Thomas on What's Happening. When news of her passing was announced, tributes began flooding in across social media and entertainment outlets. Former castmates spoke of her as the heart of the show, recalling her humor, professionalism, and the kindness she extended both on and off the set. Fans shared their personal stories of how watching her as a child star had brightened their own childhoods, and how her later career as a veterinarian revealed a woman of compassion and courage. Her final chapter was defined not by fear, but by dignity, as she faced illness with honesty and unwavering strength. Yet, as admirers reflected on her passing questions, lingered had the entertainment world truly celebrated her enough during her lifetime? Or would her legacy only be fully recognized now after her voice had been silenced? Danielle Spencer's legacy is one that transcends the boundaries of television fame. As Dee Thomas on What's Happening, she became a touchstone for generations of viewers who cherished her wit charm and authenticity. That role etched her into the cultural memory of the 1970s, making her one of the most beloved child actors of her era. But what truly set her apart was her decision to move beyond Hollywood and dedicate herself to healing others through veterinary medicine. In doing so, she demonstrated that legacy is not confined to one stage. It can be built in the countless acts of kindness we share. Following her passing, tributes reflected both sides of her life. Fans remembered the laughter and joy she brought into their homes as a young actress, while colleagues and patients praised the compassion she offered in her medical career. She was celebrated not only as a performer, but as a healer, someone who gave her heart fully to both art and service. Spencer's story is ultimately one of resilience, reinvention, and courage. She reminded us that fame may fade, but impact endures. Her spirit lives on in the episodes of What's Happening, still replayed today in the memories of those she cared for, as a veterinarian, and in the admiration of fans who continue to see her as a symbol of strength. Though their stories have now reached their final chapters, the lives of Kelly Mack, Terry Reid, Jane Morgan, Reggie Carroll, and Danielle Spencer continue to resonate. Each in their own way brought light into the world through performances, through music, through laughter, and through acts of compassion. Their journeys remind us that while fame may be fleeting, the impact of authenticity and artistry endures. Du Ho Ja Roy, Sha An Sang, Ho Je Lai Van Ton Tai. As we reflect on their legacies, we ask you, which of their moments do you remember most vividly? Share your thoughts and memories in the comments below. And if these stories moved you, we invite you to honor their memory with us by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and joining us as we continue to keep alive the echoes of fame.